my pack, my tribe. Welcome to Howling After Dark. Right here on Ghost Wolf Radio, the online radio home of Ghost Wolf Paranormal. The penultimate Native American team. Well, we're not just Native American, we're kind of multicultural. Or multi-belief, I guess you could say. But we do have a lot of natives on the team, so there we go. Anyways, tonight's show is going to be totally friggin' awesome. And the reason why is because it is all about our haunted home away from home, our paranormal palace, our supernatural sanctuary, the awesome Mansfield Fire Department Museum. So unlike most other haunted places that you could go to, by the way, because it's not actually, well, the building is haunted, but the majority of the activity that goes on there is not because of the building, it's because of all the artifacts and whatnot that are inside the building. There is one spirit we know pretty sure that is actually haunting the building itself, and we'll get into all that here in a little bit. But before I get into all that, I've got to give a little bit of background of my personal history with this place. Because while my team as a whole has been hunting there pretty regular for about, I think, going on 3 years now. 2 or 3, one of the two. I don't know. I'm on native time. I can never tell. But it's been a long time. But for at least a good, I'd say 6 months or so before that, I was hunting there with my former team, Pace. Paranormal Cryptid Exploration. And they're my former team because, well, I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not here for mudslinging tonight. But I found out some things that weren't really kosher that were going on with one of the kind of head people, I guess, on the team. And I kind of called them out on it, and it didn't sit well, I guess, with the rest of the team, and it was basically the end of it. And in a way, I'm kind of grateful. I had already formed or begun to form Ghost Wolf Paranormal like 6 months to a year, even before that. And originally the idea was we were going to be kind of like a splinter team from Pace. We were going to kind of use them to branch out into other areas other than strictly Mansfield. And I feel we were pretty successful there, especially in the beginning. But, you know, as fate would have it, my relationship between myself and Pace wasn't to last. And so I kind of made Ghost Wolf the all-time thing. And it's been 2 or 3 years now, and we're a smaller team than when we started. We started with 15 people, but you know, we're really strong, and it all started for me kind of at the FireMuseum in a way. I'd done a couple ghost hunts with them elsewhere, but there was something special about the FireMuseum, and I knew it right away. And I think I think it was the beginning of something special on kind of a spiritual level because I was finding out things that the my former team had not found in like a year of hunting there. I was finding things out. They just seemed to be very accepting of me, the spirits there, and that's always been kind of like our relationship in general. There, uh, and I want to state this for the record, by the way. Our good friend Bobby is he's the president of the board for the museum. He's also the one that sets up all the ghost hunts for us. People, we are doing a ghost hunt there on May 2nd with our good friends from HPI. That's Historical Paranormal Investigators. Their I guess leader, Jose Almesquita the second, who I've actually interviewed on the show before. Um, Hunted with us. I met, well, first of all, I met him at the Ohio Paranormal Gathering, the first one, because they weren't there last year, which was kind of a bummer because I really liked them guys. But anyways, so we did an investigation at the old gas company, which is actually owned by the FireMuseum. And we're going to be doing another investigation with them actually at the FireMuseum on May 2nd. So I'm really stoked about that. They all seem to be stoked about that. So bonus, bonus, bonus. I kind of like failed to interview like basically their whole team. I kind of did a little thing with Jose, and then that was about it. I don't know why. I guess maybe nerves. I don't know. So I'm hopefully going to be able to rectify that problem this time around because I'm kind of thinking maybe we should film another episode of Forgotten Ghost Towns with HVI at the FireMuseum on May 2nd. I don't know. Just throwing the idea out there. Anyways, so let's get down to the nitty gritty, as it were. Um, oh, yeah, and by the way, I want to just say to everyone in chat, uh, awesome that you're all here. Welcome. Uh, Definitely awesome to see Derek actually in chat, as well as Jeremy, who's always here. And I'm not sure who else is there because it doesn't show me like names, unfortunately. It's kind of one thing I don't like about this chat, but hey, whatever. Um, Regardless of who you are, what your name is, welcome. All right, so here's a couple things I want to kind of relate to people that have maybe never been there before, because like you say FireMuseum, like you say museum to anything, and you're thinking like if you're like me, you're thinking like a really old kind of like building, like because for me like my first museums really were back in San Diego at Balboa Park, and like all the buildings there are like old. They're really really old. I mean, they were a lot of them were like part of a Spanish mission that is no longer there. Um, the Museum of Natural History is like this huge Gothic like like you could tell it was like a really old Catholic cathedral, and it's huge, and when you say museum, that's kind of what most people think of, but that's not what this is. It's from the outside, it doesn't really look all that special, to be honest about it. Um, which kind of sucks because I'm sure if they, did something as far as that goes, they get a lot more business in the museum. But it's like a steel-sided building, like that rigid, like steel siding or aluminum siding or whatever it is. It looks like a warehouse, and it's a pretty big building actually. But it's like kind of split down the middle. Half of it is like a bingo hall, and that's generally where like everybody that ghost hunts there kind of sets up. Kind of put all of our gear on the first couple of tables and go from there. But as you walk in, you're in the bingo hall. You'll see that if you look to your right, at the other end of the hall, there's a door, and above the door, there's a cane. And there's actually a story behind that cane, which we'll get into in a little bit. And then up above, actually, the little foyer area that you first walk in, right above that, there's an attic where we've gotten tons of activity. And then as you walk through the double doors into the bingo hall, there's a little door off to the left. Well, you go through that door, you're in the FireMuseum. And as you walk in, on the left-hand side, you'll see kind of like a little counter set up and it's that area right there is kind of like a little gift shop kind of area. And then on the right hand side, there's a glass case with the picture of a firefighter who was, I believe he was a captain in the Mansfield Fire Department, while Bobby, who's the president of the board there, as I mentioned, was a member of that fire department. And he smoked like a chimney. He smoked like at least 2 packs a day. And I think that is actually what killed him, but don't quote me on that. But we've got EVPs right there. Well, I got one that said, hey, you gotta smoke. Which, of course I did, but it wasn't going to do him any good. And then right in front of you is the first of many kind of like antique fire engines. I think it's been moved now, but for the longest time, the first fire engine you see is a 1930 Perth. It was actually in service during the 1930s. And there's actually a spirit of a Dalmatian firehouse dog attached to that fire engine by the name of Sally. And I'll also tell how we came to know that. Now, if you were to go straight, you're going down like this little hallway, and on the left side in this hallway, immediately there's like a little office type area on the left hand side. Well, it's actually made up like an old like fire department officer's office, like a captain's office or a chief's office. And then to the right, it's all made up like a corral or a stable where their horses back in the day would have been kept. And by the way, this is something I was thinking about and I wanted to bring up. Um, we've never encountered a horse there. That's not to say that we won't. It just hasn't happened yet. We're even 2, 3 years later still discovering new stuff like all the time. So, but we have never actually encountered the spirit of a horse there. Not there, anyways. And but one thing I did want to bring up about those horses is they were rock stars of the equine world. You know, everybody sees like you go to New York City and hang around Central Park, you see the police horses and stuff, and you think, oh, that's so cool. They ain't shit in comparison. They're really not, because you got to understand something about these fire department horses. They were specially trained, because just like people, any animal, especially horses who are extremely sensitive about it, their first inclination when they experience fire, when they feel the heat, when they smell the smoke, is to run away. Okay, so these horses are specially trained not to run away from fire, in fact, to run towards it. And with some of these horses, it took a long time to get them to be like that. But the horses themselves were kind of like heroic, is my point. So, like, just awesome, you know. And anyways, you continue down that hallway, and then like there on the left, there's like a false kind of like storefront, like it could actually be from any time, but it reminds me like the 20s and 30s. And then on the right, there is this room that's made up like a 1940s, 1950s soda shop. You know, the kind where you would have a soda jerk whose job was to make ice cream and like root beer floats and stuff like that. You know, where you could totally picture like some Peggy Sue kind of girl with the little 50s style dress, with the little kitten or puppy dog on it. You know, sitting across from some like John Travolta from Grease looking dude with a leather jacket and a white shirt, sharing a root beer float with a couple of straws. I mean, you could totally picture that scenario in this place. And then, like straight ahead, you'll see like this little room, and on the outside, it's got like these little stained glass windows. That it's a little chapel area that actually came from the Mansfield Reformatory. And then next to that, on the right of that, on the same side against the same back wall, is a cell that also came from the Mansfield Reformatory. Now, I say that, and most people automatically think, wow, that's got to be like active area. You'd be surprised. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, so you kind of like follow that around, and it's like this little back hallway that kind of zigzags. And when you come out, you're on the other end of the fire trucks, and what it is it's like an L-shaped row of fire trucks that kind of wrap around the middle section of the FireMuseum. And in the middle of that L section is this room that has the oldest fire engines in the whole place. The oldest of which was from, I think, 1850 something, but it was a horse-drawn, 8-man hand-pumped fire engine. This is like the height of technology in the 1800s. And then against the back wall, there's a horse-drawn steam fire engine, and it like the whole thing wasn't powered by steam. What the steam actually did is it actually pumped the water through the hoses. So if you got hit by that water, you were scalded. And Bobby himself told me that on a few occasions historically those things exploded. So there were a lot of deaths attached to those. Oh, hi Megan. Nice to see you. Sorry, you'll hear me do that from time to time. I'll say hi to somebody that I see in chat. As I check chat periodically. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask something. Okay, so then you've got like this L-shaped row of fire trucks, and they're from like, I think they're in that row. The earliest one is, I think, is the 1930, and then it goes all the way up to the 1970s. And then there's a cool story about one of them that was actually the fire engine that Bobby was on when he was a firefighter. He actually drove the ladder, which is in the back, and but you go like straight past that end of the row of fire trucks, you'll see like straight in front of you, there's like kind of like a little conference area set up with a rows of like folding steel chairs, and then there's a pew in the back, and off to the right of that is the safety house. And what the safety house is, it looks like a little house built in the middle of the FireMuseum. But what it's actually for is to teach children about fire safety and, like stop, drop, and roll and all that stuff, and what to do in case of a fire. And then just past that, it's just kind of like an open hallway, and there's plaques in there and pictures with firefighters' names on them from, I think, like 1898 all the way up to the 60s or 70s. And then and this wall kind of comes out and tees this hallway, and then on the other side of that wall, it's like a partition wall, are two more fire trucks that are, I think the oldest one there is from early 1900s, like 1920s maybe, but don't quote me on that. And then to your right is an opening back into that L-shaped row of fire trucks, and that's basically how it's set up. And it's all kind of arranged around in such a way that, like, you could do a lap like around the place and miss both the center room where the horse-drawn stuff is and the safety house, or you can do kind of like a lap and go by the safety house and all that and miss that side of the L-shape row of fire trucks. Now let's get into some of the activity that we know is there. And I want to say something for the record, by the way. I do not at all feel that I am spoiling any surprises by talking about this stuff, because every single time we go there, we discover something new. And with that, I'm going to get right to it. Um, in the soda shop, there is a spirit that is regularly there. I'm not saying he's attached to it, but he's almost always in that space, by the name of Donnie. And the reason we know his name is Donnie is by EVPs. Almost everything I'm about to tell you tonight, we've learned from EVPs or other evidence. And in order for me to say that, I want people to understand that this is not something we've gotten just once and then assume something. This is stuff we've gotten over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, so what we got, and what I found out through actually doing the research on it, is that Donnie was a veteran of the Korean War. Now, for those who are bad at history, the Korean War was in the 1950s, the mid to late 1950s. And he was over there fighting, and he didn't even get a Dear John letter. What happened is he was engaged when he went to the war. When he came home, his girl was married to somebody else. And it messed him up. Something awful. He couldn't take it. And he started drinking. And we're not exactly sure what killed him, but I'm fairly certain that the booze had something to do with it. But the kind of cool thing is he seemed to be actually content, if not actually happy now, because like the things he says and how he says them, and like how he acts towards us as a team is like he gets a lot of joy out of us being there. And he'll actually, like, when we're not there, you'll hear our names a lot of the time on your own EVPs and stuff. So Donnie is he's awesome. Everything there is pretty friendly, actually. With, I think, like one exception that I'm not even sure is there anymore. And I'll get to that too. And then the one thing I got to tell you about the chapel area is that inside the chapel, unless you're actually looking for it, you won't see it. But in the chapel, behind the podium, standing on one end is a pine box. Well, this pine box was what they called a model coffin. It actually came from the reformatory. And what they would do is, like, when an inmate would die, they would put his body in this coffin, hold the service, and then when they would bury him, they would either bury him in a much more shabbily made box, or they would just dump him in the ground and then reuse the box, reuse the casket. And it's estimated that somewhere around 200 to 300 people had been in this particular model coffin at some point. And the first time I investigated this place, I had a K2 meter and it didn't go off at all night. Until we went up to the attic where it used to be stored, and it was originally laying on its back like like you would normally see a coffin, and I set the K2 inside the coffin and it pegged full red. It was the only hit I got on that thing all night. And there's nothing electrical right there. I mean, I've tested it since then. There's no reading at all. So I don't know. It was just interesting. The only spirit I encountered inside the cell, which you're no longer allowed to go into, by the way. There are some rules that we didn't know about at the time that we found out about later, like not to go in the cell. But I had gone in the cell because I didn't know. And I went and sat down on the bottom bunk, and I could actually feel like somebody draping their arm around me. You know, and it wasn't like threatening. It was like a friendly feeling. But, not too friendly, because I know how prison can be. But, no, it was friendly. Like, hey, I'm your bud, don't worry. That's what it was like. And so that was the only thing I ever encountered there. I've tried to do EVP sessions there, but I think whatever or whoever rather was there has since moved on. In the safety house, we get all sorts of activity. We get like all sorts of like orbs and light anomalies and mists. One time we got a shadow figure standing in the hallway, because there's actually a hallway that goes back to like these two little bedrooms. And one of the things I impress on people all the time is that there's also a little kind of like side closet off to the right side in the hallway, and if you open it, there's nothing in there except for a rocking chair and some other stuff. And every single time I've gone there, I've gotten that rocking chair to move on command. And then outside the safety house, the first time I ever investigated there, I actually caught a full-bodied apparition standing in that hallway next to the safety house in uniform. And you can actually see the uniform. It's actually draped over a wooden chair in that hallway. Same kind of uniform. So, pretty cool stuff. Alright, let me see if we got any questions in chat. Nope. Yeah, by the way, folks, I've got about 10 minutes left for this first session. What I do, let me explain for those of you who are new tonight. Spreaker only allows me to record up to 45 minutes at a time. So typically what I do is I'll do the first 45 minutes, and then I'll come back and record or broadcast another 45 minutes. And if I'm not done yet, sometimes I'll go for a part 3. Usually it's only 2 parts, though. But, this is a FireMuseum, which, obviously we're all just nuts about. So, okay, so anyways, that's the stuff in and around the safety house, and then we get a lot of shadow figures at one end of the row of fire trucks next to where the safety house is. We have gotten apparitions caught, and it wasn't even our team. It was another team we were hosting a hunt for. My good buddy Tom Jaworski from Lone Wolf Paranormal actually caught this on his digital still camera. He actually twice caught full-bodied apparitions standing right next to that very first fire engine that you see when you walk in. Uh, in that kind of row of trucks. So pretty cool stuff. And then the only other regular thing that we always pretty much encounter in the FireMuseum itself is Sally. Now, when I first encountered Sally, I just knew there was a dog. I didn't know her name. I didn't know anything about her. I kind of just went with it. And did my best to capture evidence of her being there, which I have since, by the way. But finally, after everything with my former team, I started Ghosts of Paranormal, and I finally said, screw it, I'm in charge, so I can do what I want. And I said, hey, all you brave firefighters, could you please tell me the name of this beautiful dog? And on EVP, we got the name Sally. So I looked into it, and back in the 30s, I believe, might have been early 40s, I don't remember which, the Mansfield Fire Department that's in downtown Mansfield now isn't in the same place it used to be. The original one actually caught on fire itself and almost completely burnt down. And that was Sally's firehouse. And I found out that Sally had actually rescued 8 out of 9 firefighters that night. And then her and the last firefighter, unfortunately, died in the fire. And she sticks around those first 2 fire trucks, the 1930 Perth and the one right behind it. Like, typically she'll sleep right in between them, like underneath the bumper. But I've like whistled for her. I don't whistle very loud, but I've been like, Sally, and then we've caught actually like the EVP of her claws clacking on the floor, and the jingle of the tag on her collar on EVP before, and so that to me is probably one of my more favorite experiences. But some amazing, exciting, cool, and just awesome stuff has been happening up in the attic lately. The last time we were there, they were basically calling us all by name. They called us Ghost Wolf collectively. They said my name a couple times. They said Becca's name. They've said Reagan's name. They've said Abby's name. They've said Nora's name, Bobby's name. The only person who they haven't called yet, because he hasn't investigated with this at all, is my case manager, Cody. He's had other things going on and hasn't been able to hunt with us, but I'm sure they will. And a lot of the activity up there has been intensifying, becoming more potent, I guess you could say, but not dark, really. But they are very talkative, and a lot of the evidence that we've gotten up there lately is just awesome. I actually caught a little shadow figure about the size of a boy, and there is a boy involved. And his name's Jonah. He actually follows around Reagan, my cousin, who is also one of our newly appointed co-founders and kind of our web designer. She actually designed this whole website. So if you need somebody to design a website, there you go. Get a hold of Reagan. Anyways, but he follows her around. There's a few that actually follow her around. I wouldn't really call them attachments, though. But they do follow her around, and he's one of them. And I saw him, and I was filming him, and I asked him, "Hey, can you please raise your arm up in the air?" And he did, and I caught it on film. I don't know how well you can see it on film because I don't have the greatest quality camera in the world, but I think you can kind of make it out. And well, it's not really the camera that's the problem. It's more the illuminator doesn't. Anyways, doesn't matter. Anyways, so that activity has been going on like the past 3 or 4 times that we've been there. It's just been increasing like that. And we've kind of come to the opinion that there's a portal there because of some of the EVPs we got said, like, find the door. They keep talking about the door portal. And now there's activity in a new area that we kind of knew about. We didn't really know about it, though. Like, there's an office that is kind of hidden. Like, unless you know it's there, you would never find it. And we got a bunch of stuff in that office. And I'm going to be playing a lot of these EVPs, by the way, in part 2, which is about 2 minutes away because I got 2 minutes left in this session. So, when I